Today I'm going to answer a question I get on a daily basis. Where should I move? That's something that is asked via email, comments, Instagram, and if I see people in person. It always is asked with an explanation of sorts. They always start off with, I want to get out of my current state or city to a place that's affordable, has all 4 seasons, and has a lot of transportation jobs. A lot of them throw in, I also need good schools, and if it's dog friendly. That is a very popular one. Today we will explain each state briefly and let you know who should move there. Now all states have the same stuff. You have crime in every state, you can go hiking in every state has a tech job or two waiting for you. They all have their good schools and they all have their bad schools. And some just have a little bit more or are a little bit better at something. And that's where the difference is between the states. So today we're going to talk about which state is best for you. Got it? Get it? Good. Let's take a look. Number 1, Alabama. Come to Alabama where football is religion, sweet tea is legally required, and everything that can be fried will be fried. You'll likely see someone in a truck yelling Roll Tide, and that has nothing to do with the ocean. That's actually the name of their college football team, and then they'll argue about barbecue sauce. I've seen heated conversations about barbecue sauce in Alabama before. So who should move to Alabama? Well, history buffs for one. This is one of the most history-rich states we have. If you want to find a rural community to live in, Alabama's your state. And if you're working on the lower income side, this is probably a good bet for you because everything's cheaper in Alabama. Houses, cost of living, whatever. The industries they have there, manufacturing, aerospace, and the steel industry. Those are their big ones. They're also pretty big in agriculture, but that doesn't hire as many people as it used to. Alabama has a decent family environment with lower cost of living, like I already said. The stereotypes that are real in Alabama, they have an obsession with sweet tea. I'm not kidding. Southern hospitality is real in Alabama. These are good people. That college football thing I talked about earlier, that's real too. Number 2, Alaska. Welcome to Alaska, where bears have more rights than you do, daylight is optional, and your neighbors are likely 10 miles away. Think you can handle the cold? Good luck, because winters last approximately forever in Alaska. I've been to Alaska, I don't even know how many times now. Gotta be over 15. For weeks at a time. It is one of the most beautiful states you will ever see. The cities kind of suck, and the weather is truly horrible. Who should move here? People that like adventure, outdoor enthusiasts, fishermen, hikers, people dodging subpoenas, and someone that wants to own some land, not right on top of another person's property. You know, they want some space. The industries they have there. The oil industry is big here, fishing, obviously, and tourism. There's a lot of tourism jobs here. Families, yeah, maybe not so much. It's a little bit isolated, but if you're one of these people who wants to live off the grid with your kids, and keep them away from society, it's a good option for those people. Anyone else, honestly, you run a risk of your kids hating you for moving you up there. Now, I don't say that just because it's my opinion. I've talked to several people that are from there, and they said that their parents moved up there from like the lower 48, and they hated it. And as soon as they turned 18, they were gone. There are stereotypes that are real. Yeah, it snows all the time. You will see a moose, and everyone lives in igloos. That one, of course, is false. And not all Alaskan natives, I guess you could call them, are Eskimos. That's just one community, so to speak. They're called Inuits. Number 3, Arizona. If you've ever thought, I love the heat, but I want to feel like I'm living inside an oven, Arizona is for you. Just be prepared for the constant battle between rattlesnakes and your AC unit. I read an article that's one of the most common places people encounter rattlesnakes in Arizona. Actually, I think it was Arizona and New Mexico and Texas, is around their air conditioning or just outside their house. They're, looking at their satellite dish or something. Who should move to Arizona? Retirees, definitely retirees. Desert lovers, people that love the desert. You also find a lot of the artistic types moving to Arizona. There's a big movement in Arizona and great artist communities there. This is another one that you should really consider taking your kids to. Now, there's nothing wrong as far as, it doesn't have some weird amount of crime against kids, or the schools aren't terribly dangerous compared to all the other states, and nothing like that. It's just the heat advisories. Your kids can't get outside that much. They end up indoors too much. I've seen a lot of people complain about that, and that's something several people have brought up to me about moving out of Arizona, because they're kids, What kind of industries does Arizona have? Tourism, tech, and healthcare. Families? Well, like I said, it's not great for families, too hot and too dry. but that's the only real knock, I would say. Here's the stereotypes. Retirees playing golf and there's cacti everywhere. They're kind of true. Number 4, Arkansas. Arkansas is where Walmart reigns supreme and outdoor activities means either fishing or getting lost in the Ozarks. Bonus points if you could say Razorbacks without sounding like you're snorting. Arkansas is a beautiful state. There's one thing, though. In case you've never watched this channel before, we've talked about it many times. The northwest corner of Arkansas is different from the rest of Arkansas. They have jobs, they have industries. Their economy in the northwest section is doing really well. The rest of the state, not so much. I mean, it's called the natural state and it's beautiful. It's just got some really ugly small towns and cities like Pine Bluff and Little Rock. So who should move to Arkansas? Outdoorsy types, people that want to save money on a house, and do-it-yourselfers. If you want to rebuild your house and get a really, really cheap one, Arkansas is one of the best states to do that in. Industries, retail, Walmart HQ is here, and that's up in that northwest corner. Agriculture and manufacturing are all big in Arkansas. Families, yeah, it's family friendly. Slower pace of life. They don't have the greatest schools. They do have some incredible private schools, so if you can afford one of those for your kids, I'd look into that. Stereotypes, rural living and everything is fried. That's pretty accurate. Number 5, California. Oh, you've all been waiting for this one. California, where dreams are big, wallets are small, and everyone thinks they're a star, even if they're just an Uber driver. You'll either be sipping a kale smoothie or stuck in traffic, sometimes both. I was born and raised in Southern California, and this state has everything for everyone. It's got a boatload of problems right now, are all over the press, and it's always brought up in political circles and conversations. But it's still where people go to make money, and that's just a fact. Who should move here? The creative types, tech enthusiasts, beach lovers, and people who make $150,000 a year or more. And if you're watching this 2 or 3 years from now, for people that are making $220,000 a year or more. The industries, entertainment, tech, and agriculture. Yeah, in case you don't know, most people really don't. They just think California is San Francisco and Los Angeles and San Diego, and that's that. Well, the whole center part of California, from just above Los Angeles to well past San Francisco, is farmland, and they produce a lot of stuff there. So families, yeah, maybe not. It's a little pricey, depends on your money situation, but there's plenty of diversity and opportunity for everyone and plenty of entertainment for families. You just got to be able to afford it. Stereotypes, Hollywood wannabes, yep. Surfers, not as many as you might think. And avocado toast, yes. That became a stereotype about 5 or 6 years ago, and it's kind of real. Number 6, Colorado. Colorado, where the mountains are high and so is everyone else. Whether you're skiing, hiking, or legally purchasing things that make you giggle, the altitude isn't the only thing that'll leave you breathless. If you say Colorado, people think hiking, people think camping. That's what they think about Colorado. Colorado has the Rockies in it, and that's sort of what they're known for. I mean, if you say California, people just imagine the beaches. If you say New York, people just imagine New York City. If you say Colorado, people imagine themselves hiking in the Rockies. That's all there is to it. Who should move to Colorado? Skiers, outdoor lovers, and tech workers. They got a pretty good tech scene, and tourism is pretty big because of all the ski resorts. It's also a place that you might end up if you're in the military, especially in the Army or the Air Force. Not much Navy representation in the middle of the country. But their industries, outdoor recreation and tourism, are huge there, tech and aerospace. Is it good for families? Great activities for families and top-notch education in Colorado. Now, this is another one. You're going to have some school districts that kind of suck, but overall, Colorado is doing pretty good. Stereotypes. Everyone's a hippie and they all hike, ski, and rock climb. Yeah, there's a little bit of an exaggeration, but they do a lot of it there. Number 7, Connecticut. Connecticut is basically one giant suburb of New York City, where the prep schools are fancier than most Ivy League colleges. The only way to fit in here is to own a boat, or at least pretend you do. Connecticut's kind of strange. They are one of the poorest states, but at the same time, they have some of the most expensive small towns and neighborhoods. Like the richest of the rich people will live in Connecticut if, let's say, they have some connection to New York City. Who should move here? The corporate types. If you got money, you already know that's probably where you should live, especially if you're in the finance industry. So yeah, corporate types and families seeking really good schools, really good private schools at that. Industries, finance, insurance, and healthcare. It is excellent for families, like I'd said, but it's got a high cost of living. Stereotypes, preppy, old money, and everybody's rich. Yeah, not everybody, but a lot of people are. Number 8, Delaware. Delaware is like the VIP room for corporations, but somehow also manages to be a beach town. If you blink, you'll miss it, but hey, at least they have tax-free shopping. Delaware has got such, I don't know all the ins and outs of it, but it's such a business-friendly state that everyone incorporates in Delaware. Obviously, that has to do with taxes and all that stuff. Delaware is an interesting state. It's like almost half of the state's border is waterfront property. It's either the Delaware River, the Delaware Bay, or the Atlantic Ocean. Who should move here? Beachgoers and business people. Their major industries, corporate law, healthcare, and retail. Families, it's a great place. The whole state outside of Wilmington is basically that whole rural or suburb feel. But it is a surprisingly beautiful state. A lot of people write it off, they're thinking about a beautiful state. They're thinking about, again, Colorado, any place in New England, Oregon. But no, Delaware is a beautiful state. The stereotype? They think everyone in Delaware works for corporate America. Number 9, Florida. In Florida, it's 80 degrees in December. Alligators are basically pets, and Florida man is always up to something. Whether you're partying in Miami or riding roller coasters with Mickey, chaos reigns in Florida. Florida's been one of the most moved to states for a few decades now. It's slowed down a little bit, but it's still one of the most moved to states. Who's moving there and who should move there? Beach lovers, if you love the beach, great place to do it. If you're a redneck and you want to be amongst your own, move to the center part of the state. And retirees, they're everywhere there. And they've been going there for a long time. The industries, tourism, agriculture, and aerospace. Yeah, it's big there. Can be great for families, but, obviously they got some natural disasters like hurricanes you got to watch out for. And if you got kids, it's can get pretty scary. Stereotypes, theme parks, retirees, and Florida man stories. That's all you need to know about Florida, and they're pretty accurate. Number 10, Georgia. Georgia, in my opinion, is the best southern state, and that's just my opinion. When it comes to their stereotypes, they're a lot like Alabama, though. Sweet tea and football. Sweet tea here flows like water, and if you don't like college football, you're suspect, at least. You should also know that Atlanta's traffic is basically a 24/7 gladiator sport. Who should move to Georgia? If you're into peaches, that's a start. If you're into sweet tea, again, and you like urban living, Atlanta's a great spot for music and an urban lifestyle, with a touch of southern hospitality. The industries here: film, agriculture, and logistics. Yeah, over the last 20 years or so, Hollywood has sort of moved a lot of their operations to the Atlanta area. When it comes to families, this is a very family-friendly state, especially outside of Atlanta. Stereotypes: everyone drinks sweet tea and loves college football, like I'd said. Number 11, Hawaii. Hawaii is the land of aloha, where you'll either be surfing, paying too much for stuff, or forgetting what real winters feel like. Just know that the rest of the US is extremely jealous of your permanent vacation vibe. Who should move to Hawaii? Well, beach lovers, surfers, retirees, and people with money to burn. This is the most expensive state to live in. Industries: tourism, military, and agriculture. That's just about it. For families, great lifestyle, but it is terribly expensive. Stereotypes: laid-back surfers and everyone wears a lei. No, tourists wear leis. Or if you're graduating, some kind of ceremony they'll put them on. Not like people are walking around with leis on all the time. But they are very laid back. Number 12, Idaho. Idaho, where the potatoes are so good they might actually make you emotional. If you love the idea of living somewhere both beautiful and a little isolated, Idaho might be your spudtastic dream. Stop me before I pun again. What I've always found interesting about Idaho is it's basically named after a lie. When they were trying to come up with a name for the area, they wanted an Indian name. A man named George M. Willing came up with the name. He said Idaho meant gem of the mountains or the sun comes from the mountains. He said Idaho is an Indian word that means that. Well, it didn't. He made it up. And they think, or at least some stories are, that it was a friend's daughter's name or something like that, Ida. I've also read that that one's BS, but who knows? Who's moving to Idaho? Well, pretty much everyone should. A lot of people love it. But nature lovers, agricultural workers, and people that don't like crowds. Sure, Boise and a couple other places are getting kind of big, but this is still a pretty vacant state. Their industries, agriculture, tech, and manufacturing, it is definitely a family-friendly state. Slower pace of life here. Stereotypes, potatoes, potatoes, and more potatoes. That's their stereotype here, and that's pretty close to accurate. Number 13, Illinois. Illinois is home to Chicago, the Windy City, where the pizza is deep, the politics is shady, and the winters will slap you in the face and kick you in the nuts. Oh, and there's a lot of corn once you get out of the city. Most people don't realize that Illinois is a very rural state. It's farms. They've just got Chicago, and that takes all the attention off the rest of the state. Who should move here? Well, urbanites, business people, and people looking for nice rural communities. Obviously, that's going to be found outside of Chicago. Industries, finance, manufacturing, agriculture. Families, it's a great place for families, though Chicago has some rough spots. Stay out of those. Stereotypes. They all sit around drinking beer and watching the Chicago Bears. And their politicians are corrupt. Their politicians are, for the most part, no, I shouldn't say the most part, more often than any other state, their politicians have come up a little shady. 14, Indiana. Indiana is a lot like Illinois. I mean, it's very similar. They just don't have Chicago. They have Indianapolis, which isn't as bad as Chicago, but it's not great. Indiana is basketball, cornfields, and the Indy 500. Basically, if you're not driving fast or shooting hoops, you're probably talking about how much better everything was in high school. Who should move there? Sports fans, car racing fans more specifically, and basketball fans, agriculture lovers, and people that want to move to a nice rural area. Obviously, that won't happen in Indianapolis. Industries, manufacturing, agriculture, and logistics. Stereotypes, cornfields and basketball fans. That's very accurate. Number 15, Iowa. Iowa, where the cornfields are taller than a man. And the excitement of the year is the state fair. If you don't like hearing about farming and conversations about farming, you're going to be missing out on a lot of conversations in Iowa. Just like any place where something takes up a majority of their time, like this is their industry here. Just like, let's say, the lobstermen in Maine. They talk about what they do all the time. Every time I've gone there and talked to people, it's talked about farming. Now, obviously, that's not the entire state. They do have some medium-sized cities like Des Moines and Cedar Rapids, but for the most part, this state is farms. So who should move here? Farmers or people that want to live a rural lifestyle? And people that don't like people. I mean, you can get out in the middle of nowhere. You won't see anyone for days. Industries, farming, manufacturing, and finance in their cities. Families, yeah, it's a good family-friendly state. It's probably one of the best states to raise a family. Their stereotypes are corn, tractors, and small-town living, which is very accurate. 16, Kansas. Look at that, we're staying in America's heartland. Dorothy wasn't kidding when she said Kansas is a lot of flat, a lot of farms, and a lot of tornadoes. The good news is you can see those twisters coming from miles away, literally. Just about everything I said about Iowa, you could say about Kansas. Who should move here? People that want to live in rural America and agricultural workers. Industries, again, farming, aviation, and manufacturing. Families, yeah, quiet, family-orientated state, very much a thing. Stereotypes, tornadoes, flat landscapes, and everyone loves barbecue, which Kansas knows how to barbecue, by the way. Number 17, Kentucky. You know, I always get this feeling about Kentucky and the people. It's almost like they don't care what's going on in the United States. It's like they got their little plot of land and they want to be left alone. You do you and we'll do us, and let's keep it that way. That's just kind of this feeling I get about the state. But in Kentucky, horses are celebrities, bourbon is a way of life, and fried chicken is a religion. Who should move here? The basic ones. Horse lovers, bourbon enthusiasts, that's easy. But really, I think they are a conservative Republican state, but I get the feeling they're more libertarian. They just don't like the government. Anyway, their industries, manufacturing, agriculture, and bourbon. And as far as families, yeah, it's a good place to raise a family for the most part. And I already told you the stereotypes. Bourbon, fried chicken, and horse racing. Those are accurate. Number 18, Louisiana. Louisiana is one of the most southern states you can get. I mean, not by geographic, just the lifestyle. This is very much a southern state. It is home to New Orleans, and most people have Louisiana as an afterthought. It's like they think New Orleans is the whole place. Sort of like how New York City is. You know, people sometimes forget there's a whole state connected to it. But in Louisiana, every meal is either crawfish, jambalaya, or something you can't pronounce, but it's amazing. Also, Mardi Gras isn't just a holiday. It's a personality trait. Who should move here? Foodies, music lovers, people that like to party, and people that like to fish. Industries, oil, tourism, and agriculture all the way. Family friendly? Yeah, maybe. I mean, some of their smaller communities are really nice and probably a great place to raise a kid. I wouldn't do it in New Orleans or Baton Rouge, their biggest cities, or two of their biggest cities. And their stereotypes, Mardi Gras, jazz, and Cajun food. There's nothing wrong about that, and that's very accurate. 19, Maine. Maine is lobsters, lighthouses, and enough cold weather to make you question your life choices. But hey, at least you get to see Canada from your front porch. Or close enough. One thing I like about living in New England, or the possibility of living in New England, the price of prescriptions here in the United States is obviously crazy. It's getting a little bit better, but it's crazy. A lot of people that live in New England, especially near the Canadian border, they just go over there and get their prescriptions filled in Canada for like 20% of what we pay here in the United States. Not too long ago, I asked everyone if you could fix one thing in the United States, what would it be? I think my personal opinion is the cost of medical care, or at least the prescription cost, because it is ridiculous. Anyway, who should move to Maine? Nature lovers, seafood enthusiasts, and people that kind of want a quiet life. In rural areas, and they don't mind cold weather. I was just in Maine a couple weeks ago. Loved it. It's beautiful. The industries they got there: fishing, tourism, and agriculture. Families? Absolutely. It's a great place for kids, especially families that like to be outdoors. Stereotypes? Yeah. Lobsters again, lighthouses, and freezing weather. 20, Maryland. In Maryland, if you're not eating crab cakes or talking about the Ravens, are you even a Marylander? They also like to talk about how dangerous Baltimore is. That seems to be a popular theme with the people I've talked to from Maryland. Old Bay is the official seasoning, and everything must be smothered in it. It's like the rules in Maryland. Who should move to Maryland? Government workers? Absolutely. Washington, D.C. is basically in Maryland's border, even though it's its own place. You've got a lot of government workers in Annapolis, Maryland, and of course, Joint Base Andrews. Their industries, government again, healthcare, and defense. Absolutely. Is it for families? Yeah, maybe. Not really in Baltimore, but they've got a lot of other smaller communities that are great places for families. Stereotypes: crab cake eating, lacrosse playing, political junkies. 21, Massachusetts. Massachusetts is where everyone is wicked smart, especially when discussing the Red Sox or the Patriots. Between Harvard, MIT, Boston College, clam chowder, and trying to park in Boston, you'll always have something to complain about. I had a roommate in the Army that was from the Boston area, and I don't know what he meant, but he always used to say, Harvard, the big lie. And he'd say it in his like rich, spoiled brat type voice. It was pretty funny. Don't know what he meant. But Massachusetts is all about academia, as they call it, which sounds like a eating disorder if you ask me. If you do want to move to Massachusetts and the Boston area especially, you better have some money because it's expensive. So who should move here? History buffs, academics, and people with a lot of money that don't mind traffic and bad parking. And that's just in the Boston metro area. The rest of the state is pretty normal, but you still gotta have money. Industries. Education, that rules the Boston metro area, and really most of Massachusetts. Healthcare and finance. Is it family friendly? Yes, they have top-notch schools everywhere, not just the universities. Stereotypes, Ivy Leaguers, Red Sox fans, and wicked thick accents. 22, Michigan. Michigan, where the lakes are great, the winters are great. When I say great, I mean brutal. And Detroit versus everyone isn't just a slogan, it's actually a survival guide. Michigan over the years has gotten a bad reputation, mainly because of Detroit and Flint. Flint's still a nightmare. Detroit is, believe it or not, getting better. They've made some serious progress, I would say. They've been kind of chipping away at how bad they were for quite a few years now, but over the last 2 years, they've really made some progress. Who should move here? Auto enthusiasts? Outdoor lovers? Absolutely. A lot of people don't realize how beautiful Michigan is when it comes to nature. I mean, all they think about are the cities. Industries, auto manufacturing, still, even though it's not what it used to be. Healthcare and tourism. Is it family friendly? Yeah, I would say so. Suburban areas, not in the cities. Stereotypes. Detroit's auto industry, lakes, and severe winters. 23, Minnesota. Minnesota, land of 10,000 lakes and about 10 million passive-aggressive Minnesota nice comments. Everyone's either ice fishing or trying to survive the winters with a smile. That whole Minnesota nice thing is kind of like the Southern charm, Southern hospitality. I think it's more of a survival thing for the winters. I mean, winters are brutal enough. No reason to be rude to each other also. Who should move to Minnesota? Well, nature lovers and snow lovers, absolutely. Wouldn't hurt if you have Scandinavian heritage, because there's a lot of that going on here. Industries. Agriculture, manufacturing, and healthcare jobs are thick in Minnesota. Families? Yes, very family friendly, and it has excellent schools. Stereotypes. Hot dishes, Minnesota nice, like I'd said, and snow for 6 months. 24, Mississippi. I used to spend my summers in Mississippi as a teenager. My biological father's side of the family is from Mississippi, and they've all moved out. You know why? Mississippi sucks. Mississippi is hot, humid, and full of hospitality. I will give them that. These people are all about eating catfish. At least in the rural areas, that's a big thing for them. Cornbread, catfish seem to go with every meal. Who should move to Mississippi? History buffs, agricultural workers, and, in my opinion, people that aren't good decision makers. Industries, agriculture, manufacturing, healthcare. Families, yeah, you know, it's a mixed bag here. First of all, it's extremely affordable. And if you're raising a family, every, dime counts. Stay out of Meridian, stay out of Jackson, find a nice small town in Mississippi, and you probably live a nice, happy, mellow life. Stereotypes, that southern drawl, catfish, and magnolia trees. 25, Missouri. Or Missouri, depends on who you talk to in that state. Missouri is known as the Show Me State. Now, I've heard different stories about why it's called the Show Me State. A senator or congressman of some sort, maybe even a governor, was at a political thing and someone was explaining something to him. And he said, "Sir, I'm from Missouri, you're going to have to show me." I've heard different explanations of why he said this. One explanation is Missouri people don't trust the word of people, that was one thing. Or they just need to see proof of something. In other words, they're not up for your BS. They need to see proof. I've also read a couple things where, it was kind of a play on words because they were acting like Missouri people are just a bunch of hicks and dumb, which they're not. But Missouri is where the rivers are mighty, the barbecue sauce is saucy, and the arch is the most exciting thing for miles. Don't mess with their Cardinals or their ability to debate what counts as good barbecue. Who should move here? Barbecue lovers, absolutely. Beer lovers, another good place for that. And rural workers. Industries, agriculture, manufacturing, and transportation. Is it family friendly? Yeah, I would say so. Outside of St. Louis, a couple other places, it's a really nice state. Find a nice rural community and you'll probably have a happy life with your kids and family. Stereotypes. Barbecue sauce, St. Louis, not really a stereotype, but that's all people think about when you say Missouri. I think about Harry S. Truman. 26, Montana. Montana is where the sky is bigger than your problems, and everyone has at least one story about almost being trampled by a buffalo. If you don't like the outdoors, you're in the wrong state. Don't move to Montana. Who should move to Montana? Ranchers and outdoor adventurers, and tourism professionals. Industries, agriculture, tourism, and energy. They're big in energy. Families, it's ideal for families who love wide open spaces. It's a great place to raise kids. They're stereotypes. Whole bunch of cowboy stuff, big sky, and mountains are everywhere. They're really not, but they've got a lot of mountains. I mean, 3/5 of the state, the eastern section I should say, is pretty flat with occasional hills here or there. Now, mountains are all over the western part of the state. If you ever take the Amtrak, let's say from Seattle to, I don't care where you go, Chicago, you'll see some beautiful things in Montana. 27, Nebraska. Remember everything I said about Kansas and Iowa? Pretty much the same thing with Nebraska. These states should just erase their borders and become one giant state. Who should move here? Farmers, quiet life seekers, people that want to live in rural America. Industries, agriculture, manufacturing, and they have a good finance sector in Nebraska. Is it good for families? Absolutely, especially the ones that want a slow-paced life. Stereotypes, cornhuskers, cows, and wide open spaces. 28, Nevada. Nevada is basically Las Vegas and more desert. Gambling, neon lights, and questionable life choices await you. The rest of the state, well, it's probably hiding from Vegas's wild reputation. Now you have Reno and you have, Henderson, which is a suburb of the Las Vegas metro area. You also have Carson City and Pahrump. After that, nobody knows much about Nevada, and I think Nevada people like it that way. But people are still moving there. And who should move there? Casino workers, entertainment industry types, and people that have been outpriced in California. The industries, well, tourism, gaming, and logistics. You might think there's a whole bunch of government jobs there. There really isn't. The United States government owns like 3/5 of Nevada. But a lot of it is open space that they just hold on to, or at least they take care of it. It's still part of Nevada, but they're the ones that it sort of belongs to. Is it good for families? Well, yeah, I would say in some parts, definitely not in Las Vegas, maybe in the suburbs and stuff. For the most part, I don't think a lot of people really like raising their kids in Nevada. Stereotypes, slot machines, desert, and 24/7 partying. Kind of a thing. Really not for the locals, but when you go there, that's a thing. If you're ever thinking about moving to the Las Vegas metro area, there's a channel called Jacob's Life in Vegas. I know the guy just via the internet. We've talked a few times. Great channel. Tell you everything there is about Las Vegas. Number 29, New Hampshire. In New Hampshire, they live free or die, and they also love to remind you that there's no sales tax here. If you love the outdoors and maple syrup, living in New Hampshire is basically heaven to you. That's our slogan, is live free or die. Who should move to New Hampshire? Nature lovers and tax evaders. Industries, healthcare, education, and tourism. Is it good for families? It is great for families. It's another one that, if you like your kids to be outdoors, great place to live. Their stereotypes, winters, maple syrup, and white picket fences. Not bad stereotypes. Number 30, New Jersey. New Jersey, either the best place on earth or a state full of fist-pumping, bad drivers that use the middle finger a lot, depending on who you ask, actually. If you're not yelling about pizza, you're probably arguing over bagels if you live in New Jersey. Who should live in New Jersey? Well, city commuters. I mean, people that gotta work in New York City, a lot of them will live in New Jersey and they just commute. Beach lovers, because believe it or not, New Jersey has some nice coastline. Industries, pharma, finance, and retail. That's what you're going to find in New Jersey. Is it good for family? Yeah, I would say in the suburbs. It does have a high cost of living, but not everywhere. You just got to pick and choose where you're going. Stereotypes. Jersey Shore, yes. Diners and aggressive drivers. These are all very popular stereotypes about New Jersey. Now, the Jersey Shore was a TV show on MTV, and it just really made the whole state look bad. They're not that bad. Maybe a little bit. 31, New Mexico. I find New Mexico to be a strange place because it's beautiful for a desert state. Like I've stated before, I'm not a big desert person, but New Mexico is beautiful. It's just got a whole lot of problems right now. Poverty, crime, just way more than it should be. But it is affordable, and they do kind of have a really serious art scene there. So who should move there? Artists and nature lovers. I imagine it's pretty big for parole officers also. Industries, government, oil, and tourism. Is it family friendly? Yeah, I would say in the rural areas maybe. Stereotypes, UFOs, art colonies, and a whole lot of desert. Those are accurate. 32, New York. New York. If you can make it here, you can make it anywhere, especially if you survive the subways in New York City. You'll either be chasing your dreams or pizza rats, your choice. But either way, it's a wild ride. Now, that sounds like I'm talking about New York City, and kind of am. The rest of New York is nothing like New York City, but that's where a majority of the people are, and that's where a majority of the interest is. If you want to find a great place to raise a family and great place to live that's beautiful, go up to the Finger Lakes area. So who should move to New York? Well, if you're talking about New York City, urbanites, career-driven types, the rest of the state, just about anyone. It is expensive, so if you're looking to save money on real estate, don't look at New York. Industries, finance, entertainment, and tourism. Families, yeah, I would say outside of New York City. I was just in New York City 3 weeks ago. It sucks. It's gotten worse since the last time I was there, which was pre-pandemic. I don't mind living in a city. I don't mind visiting cities, but I found nothing appealing in New York City. I know a lot of people aren't going to be happy with that, but that's how it is. And that's just my opinion. Stereotypes, yeah, big city attitude, fast pace, and pizza slices bigger than your head, which I will give them that. I'm wrong. There was one good thing. I had some really good pizza while I was there. 33, North Carolina. In North Carolina, there's two main conversations: barbecue and politics. The beaches are beautiful, the mountains are majestic, and everyone is somehow related to a Duke or UNC fan. Who should move here? Pretty much everyone. North Carolina has something for everyone. It's one of the most moved to states, and I think it's just at the beginning of that. It's going to be picking up more steam here to come. But outdoor lovers and tech workers. Also, healthcare is a big thing in North Carolina. Industries, tech, banking, healthcare, like I said. Families, yes, absolutely. It's got good schools, family-friendly, and a growing job market. Stereotypes: barbecue, basketball, and college rivalries. 34, North Dakota. North Dakota is all about wide open spaces and really, really cold winters. If you don't own a snow shovel, are you really trying? If you move here, you'll probably experience more cows than people. Who should move to North Dakota? Oil workers and ranchers. That's about it. Maybe windshield ice scraping enthusiasts. Is it family friendly? I would say so. It's a decent place to raise your family. It gets a little cold, but like I'd said, so I don't know. Stereotypes: snow, oil fields, and everyone owns a tractor. 35, Ohio. Ohio, home of corn, college football, and a whole lot of people that hate Michigan. Yeah, that's their thing. Ohio, this is kind of, I'm going out here and not a lot of people are going to agree with me, but I think Ohio is on the verge of a resurgence. I mean, if Detroit can do it, so can Cleveland, right? Who should move to Ohio? Industrial workers and football fans. Yes. Industries: manufacturing, healthcare, and education. They're starting to gain more manufacturing jobs than just about any other state. Family friendly. Yeah, they've got some really good schools and they've got some nice areas. You just got to be aware of which ones you should be moving to. Do your research on Ohio. Stereotypes: college football obsessed, cornfields, and everyone knows a Buckeye. 36, Oklahoma. Oklahoma is where the wind comes sweeping down the plains, along with some massive tornadoes. Everyone's either farming or singing a country song in Oklahoma. Here's the thing about Oklahoma that I don't think a lot of people realize. Per capita, for a few years there, I think they're like in the top 5 still, but they were number 1 in public assistance, like the rate of their citizens on some form of public assistance. Their poverty is pretty serious in that state, but no one ever talks about it. It's strange. I had to do some digging to find out all the information a couple of years ago, and I mean, I know how to get around and find stats. It's almost like they're hiding it. I know that's total conspiracy theory, and I know it's not true, but that's the vibe I got. It's like, why is this so hard to find? So who should move here? Ranchers, oil workers, and people looking to save money on real estate. Industries: oil, agriculture, and aerospace, believe it or not. Families: yeah, I would say it's family friendly. It's got a lot of open space. Stereotypes: tornadoes, cowboys, and country music. 37, Oregon. Oregon, hands down, is one of the most beautiful states we have. Gets overshadowed by all the nonsense going on in Portland. You know how I said earlier, New York City, everyone just seems to forget about the rest of the state? That's kind of how it is here in Oregon. Everyone thinks about Portland. They don't think about anything else. They think what's going on in Portland is what's going on in the rest of the state. Absolutely not. This is a libertarian state. Portland is a liberal state. And honestly, I wouldn't even call them liberals. There's something weird there. So who should move to Oregon? Nature lovers, techies, homeless people, and people who enjoy strip clubs and breweries. Industries: tech, forestry, and healthcare is big here. Is it family friendly? I would say in most places, just outside of Portland probably. Portland doesn't have that bad of schools or anything like that. It's just not a great place to raise your kids right now. Stereotypes: bunch of hipsters, bunch of homeless, bunch of drug addicts, bunch of rain, and a whole bunch of breweries. 38, Pennsylvania. I love Pennsylvania. Pennsylvania is one of my top 5 states I'd live in. It's beautiful, especially the rural areas. I have no time for Philadelphia or Pittsburgh, or Scranton for that matter, but that northeast section of Pennsylvania, I absolutely love it. The rural towns, great. Honesdale, if you ever get a chance, go visit. Who should move here? History lovers, because they've got a whole bunch. And honestly, people that have no time for your BS. That's, almost like that Missouri thing. Got no time for your BS. Just give me the facts. Industries: healthcare, education, and manufacturing. Families? Yes, absolutely. I would say this is a very family-friendly state. Keep your kids out of Philadelphia. Stereotypes: Amish country, cheesesteaks, and everyone hates Philly traffic. It's very accurate. 39, Rhode Island. Strange thing about Rhode Island, every single time I've gone there and I've talked to a local, I've gotten some snarky remark about something. I don't know what it is. It's like everyone's there, like, it's like their thing. They just like to give you snarky remarks and make you feel stupid. You know, I'm sure that's not everyone, but when I've had maybe 20 or 30 interactions with people in Rhode Island, like conversation more than just like one question, more than half of them have given me some kind of snarky reply. Who should move to Rhode Island? Well, if you want to live in New England, this is a good place to live. Beach lovers and academics. They got a lot of colleges around this area and in Rhode Island. So, yeah. Industries, education, tourism, healthcare, family friendly? Yes, absolutely, but it's expensive. Stereotypes, lobster rolls, prep, and tiny but full of charm. Number 40, South Carolina. South Carolina, you know, it's not a great state, but they've got some amazing cities. Myrtle Beach is a great place to visit. I wouldn't want to live there. I wouldn't mind living in Charleston. I think that's a historic and beautiful city. Bluffton is nice. Basically the low country. Move to the low country and it's a great place to live. Who should move here? Beach lovers, history buffs, definitely. Industries, tourism, manufacturing, and healthcare. Family friendly? Yeah, I would say so. A lot of southern hospitality. Stereotypes. It's the South, so of course sweet tea, southern charm, and everyone seems to be in a sorority or fraternity for some reason. 41, South Dakota. South Dakota is another one of those states that's on the rise over the last few years. People are starting to clue in that South Dakota might be a great place to live. The state is so much more than Mount Rushmore and Sturgis. Who should move to South Dakota? Nature lovers and ranchers, definitely. Industries, agriculture, tourism, and healthcare. Family friendly? Yeah, I would say so. It's got a lot of wide open spaces, decent schools. Sometimes you got to drive an hour to get to your school, but hey, that's life. Stereotypes, Mount Rushmore, buffalo, and cowboy boots. I've never associated South Dakota with cowboy boots. Montana, Wyoming, absolutely. Oklahoma, yeah. Even Colorado before I would throw South Dakota in that category. Oh well. 42, Tennessee. Tennessee is where country music runs through everyone's veins and whiskey is considered a food group. Whether you're hiking in the Smokies or crooning in Nashville, you'll feel the rhythm of the South in Tennessee. Just stay out of Memphis. You'll be fine. Who should move to Tennessee? Music lovers, barbecue fans, and people from Los Angeles that are looking for cheaper real estate. If you're from Los Angeles, move to anywhere in Tennessee. They would love to meet you and they'd love to have you in. Actually, don't tell them. It'll work against you. Tell them you just got out of a coma and you showed up in Tennessee. They'll believe that and they'll be happier to hear that than you just moved from Los Angeles. Industry, music, tourism, and healthcare, families? Yeah, I would say it's a good place for families. Stereotypes, country music, barbecue sauce, and the love of whiskey. 43, Texas. There is nothing new I can tell you about Texas that you already don't know. Everyone knows about Texas. It's a very popular state right now. Well, it has been for like the last 20 years. People have been flooding in there. Texans are a little bit done with that. It's slowed down a touch, but it's still one of the fastest growing states. So who should move to Texas these days? Oil workers, techies, and people that are tired of California real estate prices. What a lot of Texans don't realize is they've gotten all these companies to move from, let's say, California or Washington to Texas. And they always brag about that. But then at the same time, they complain about the people from California moving in. Well, those companies that you basically got from California and Washington, well, they're bringing their people too. They're not just starting fresh with people from Texas. So it's a double-edged sword. Sure, you get the company, but you also get the people with it. Industries, oil, tech, healthcare, great for families with good schools and a lot of open spaces. Stereotypes, big everything, cowboy hats, and barbecue sauce. Now, you're not always going to find people wearing cowboy boots and cowboy hats. That's kind of a stereotype that was brought on from God knows how many movies and TV shows. You will see it occasionally, but it's not a normal thing. 44, Utah. Utah is mountains, Mormons, and a whole lot of family fun. If you don't ski or snowboard, it's okay. There are a million other ways to enjoy the outdoors here, as long as you bring the whole family. It's like this thing in Utah. Very, very much family-orientated state. Who should go there? Outdoorsy types, family-focused people. Industries, tech, tourism, healthcare. Families, yeah, like I said, it's one of the most family-friendly states we have. Stereotypes, Mormons with 20 wives, mountains, and family values. 45, Vermont. Remember everything I said about New Hampshire earlier? Yeah, it's just about the same in Vermont. Maple syrup, beautiful bed and breakfasts, beautiful New England countryside. They don't have really big cities. And you can go across the border to Canada and get your medication. Who should move here? Nature lovers and introverts, because you're not going to be around a bunch of people. Industries, agriculture, tourism, and healthcare. Families, yeah, it's great for families who want some space and nature. Yeah, absolutely. Stereotypes, maple syrup, snow, and progressive politics. 46, Virginia. Virginia is for lovers and history buffs who can't get enough of colonial reenactments. You'll either be walking battlefields or sitting in traffic, but at least the Blue Ridge Mountains are nice. They got some nice beaches. Virginia Beach is a great place to visit. Who should move to Virginia? Yeah, history buffs and government workers. Industries, government, defense, and healthcare. Family friendly, yeah, I would say. Don't get too close to Washington, D.C., and you'll probably be doing just great. Stereotypes, Civil War, history, horse farms, and colonial times, and politics. 47, Washington State. Almost everything we said about Oregon can be said about Washington, but replace everything I said about Portland and change it to Seattle, and there you have it. These two states are very similar. Washington just seems to be a little bit bigger and a little more populated. Washington is one of the most beautiful states we have as far as nature goes. Beautiful, rugged coastlines, and a great place to grab a cruise from. Who should move here? Tech workers and coffee lovers. Yes, absolutely. Industries, tech, aerospace, healthcare, and tourism. Is it family friendly? Yeah, I would say outside of Seattle, it is. Stereotypes, rain, coffee, and tech startups everywhere. 48, West Virginia. West Virginia is all about country roads, coal mines, and mountains that will take your breath away. It's also known for being hit hard by the opioid crisis, and the coal industry is slowly fading away. But the people are great. I know a lot of them, wonderful people. Like everyone outside and inside West Virginia will tell you, just stay out of the hollers. If you don't know what a holler is, how do I explain it? Back in the military, we called it a draw. Let's say you're going down like a valley of some sort, and then, on a road, you got mountains on each side of you, and then you see a little dirt road going off into a little smaller type valley that maybe has a creek running down the middle of it. That's a holler. There's people that live down those dirt roads. And in most cases, they're people that shouldn't mix with polite company in cities. So who should move there? Nature lovers, coal workers, and remote workers. Remote workers, I would say, over coal workers because coal's slowly fading away. This state is so cheap if you're a remote worker, it is a great place to live. Industries, coal mining, tourism, healthcare. Family friendly? Yeah, but it's a little bit isolated. Pick your community or whatever town you're going to move to very carefully. Do a lot of research if you're going to move there, but you could get a house for a really low price. Stereotypes, bunch of coal mine, pill popping, mountain folk, and country roads. 49, Wisconsin. Now, in my opinion, Wisconsin is probably the top 5 when it comes to best states for families. It's just they're good people, got that whole Midwest charm thing going on. Who should move there? I would say cheese lovers, beer fans, and people that want nice neighbors. Industries, dairy farming, manufacturing, and healthcare. Family friendly? Yeah, absolutely. 100% good schools, very into sports, still do Boy Scouts and Cub Scouts and Girl Scouts and all that type stuff. I know every place does, but they're still really into it. Stereotype, cheeseheads, Packer fans, and beer. All right, now we're coming up to our last one. If you're thinking about moving to any other state, there's a link for Home and Money in the description area below. They can get you in touch with a real estate agent anywhere in the country. All right, on to number 1. And number 1, Wyoming. Wyoming, just like a few other states on here, is very similar to their neighbor to the north, Montana. Probably erase the border and just make it one state and they'll be just fine. Wyoming is our 10th largest state, but it's our lowest populated state, meaning they're ranked 50 when it comes to population. When you look at population density, they're 49th. Only Alaska beats them. Wyoming has 6 people per square mile. Alaska has 1.3. So if you don't want to be around a lot of people, maybe buy a couple acres, Wyoming's calling your name. Who should move here? Ranchers, nature lovers, hermits, introverts, people that like wind. Yeah, it's perfect place for you people. Industries, mining, tourism, agriculture, family. I would say it's an okay place for families. I have a friend from the Army. He grew up in Wyoming. He told us great stories about, hunting, fishing, being chased by a buffalo while he was on a snowmobile. All kinds of good stories. Stereotypes, cowboys, mountains, and everyone owns a horse. That's not true, but stereotype. All right, I hope you guys liked this very long video. If you did, give it a thumbs up, leave me a comment, tell me what you thought. And if you would, watch one of the 2 videos being suggested right now. Everybody have a great day. Be nice to each other.